How fast are you moving when you're above the ground?
If you really bend those suits over, I'd say you could get them to about 120. Face first.
You're a human missile.
It's awesome.
I can, those of us like myself listening to this can only wonder, right?
You can feel it in the suit. So again, the ram air inlets, when you're a little bit flatter, flying slow, it feels like you're on an air.
I'll tell you, having done it, it is immensely powerful. Yeah. I only wish I had learned about it like in junior high school.
Story of my life. Yeah. So first off, not my creation. This is something I don't remember. And I think I said this multiple times in the book because I want to be very clear that of basically taking ownership over nothing in that book because they're not my unique ideas. They were things that were taught to me that I'm trying to pass forward. So I don't remember exactly where I first saw this, but the way it was first positioned to me was your circle or sphere of influence, which is very small, and your sphere of concern, which for most people, to include myself, is very large. So if it was the size of this table, that would be your concern. The influence would be the size of a pin drop on the table. And the exercise is actually really simple. Take a standard piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, concern on one side, influence on the other, and you just take the time to write down the things that are occupying your waking hours. I don't know if you're anything like me. I try not to set an alarm unless I have something really pressing that day. But if I do wake up and my brain does a revolution, I have to get out of bed because otherwise I'm staring at the ceiling in the bedroom. And if I have really sticky things in the morning, I'll usually do this about once a month or once every 6 months now. But almost every time that thought will be on the left-hand side of the column. It's just a concern. Why is it preventing me from going back to sleep? Why can't I let go of it? And it's social media, the world that we all live in. It's things you can't control. It's just all the stuff that you spend your energy and effort focusing on. And then you go to the other side of that paper, and I'm still yet to find more than one thing that you can write down. And that's the direct influence that you have. And all you really can write on that is yourself. Now you can tranche that out and say your thought process, the way you speak to yourself, the way you plan your day, the way you manage your time. But all that goes back into things you can actually directly control, which leads you to the realization, or leads me to the realization, that I have no control over what happens to me in my life, but I have absolute and complete and total control over how I respond to it. And I think that speaks to the agency piece. And it helps me, especially when I have those sticky thoughts, it helps me at least take a step back. I'm not going to say I'm perfect and I can put down a lot of the things that I'm concerned with, but it will identify for me a healthy or an unhealthy attachment to those things. And it does help me cross back over to, okay, I understand that this is scary or concerning, but being scared or concerned about it doesn't impact outcome. Everything on the right-hand side of the paper does. So that's what it does for me. Man, you want to talk about developing some more efficiencies? It's a great tool. It's startling how much who Chad Wright is.
Yes, I know of him and we've corresponded a little bit.
He is hilarious.
We should probably describe it.
He does the same type of stuff that Goggins does. He's an endurance athlete.
Long red beard.
I call him the Forrest Gump of the SEAL teams, to his face, so I'm comfortable saying it. He's amazing. I've had him on the show a couple times, knew him when we were in the teams together, and he came on my show in November. And I don't know how we started talking about it, but it was this conversation around screen time. It's like, all right, bud, let's pull the phones out. Let's see what we got. It's not awesome. I think it was 4.5 hours. So we decided that in January of this year, we're going to try to drive our screen time per day to under an hour for total phone usage. I think phone calls we were able to strip out of that. I think the closest he got was about 90 minutes. And then the last week of January for me, I got mine down to 30 minutes. Now for clarity, I was still doing a lot of the stuff that I was doing on my phone, but I forced it over to my laptop, which was a really interesting experience because it's way less sticky on that platform. So Instagram on your laptop sucks. It's not intuitive. The things that you would normally just do with your thumb, they don't exist. So you end up closing your laptop up. So I'd get on there, post what I wanted to, and then just leave. My mental health was better in January than it had been in a long time. So I 100% think that social media is not only designed to suck up as much as that left-hand portion of your list as possible, but again, it's optional. I mean, you create content, you have a massive platform. I create content. We can easily tell ourselves we have to exist on these platforms, which to a degree we do. The question I ask myself is the platform working for me or am I working for it? And that's the healthy relationship. And I think actually that goes right back to that exercise. Am I targeting what I do with my time and being efficient with it and then moving on? Or am I just getting stuck into this thumb scroll of death, which is right before bed? I've heard you say it's the best time to have electronic device light.
Yeah, real bright in a dark room.
Right before bed, right?
And if you really want to maximize, make sure you do it first thing in the morning too, and don't get outside and look at the sun, you know?
But it's so sticky. I'm telling you, when I hopped over to my laptop, at first I couldn't even figure out how to post a picture. And it's so clunky and so not intuitive that you don't want to play with it.
Are you still there now?
Oh, no, I went right back to using my thumb.
What's Chad doing now with his social media? Is he still?
Oh, he's probably doubled it. He said the same thing too, by the way. Man, this is amazing. We should do this more often. And just right back to being on your thumb again by probably March.
So what's mind-boggling about this is, and you'll tell me, no, we're just ordinary people who were trained to do extraordinary things. But, you know, SEAL selection, you know, pares down, you know, for every 100 guys, you know, maybe 15 get through, maybe 10, you know, consistently, right? Discipline is certainly a piece of that. Resilience, mental toughness, you know, whatever language you want to throw at it. You have that. Chad has that. You guys were weaned in that. You were forged in that. Then you do high risk, high consequence work, right? And on minimal sleep, et cetera, et cetera. And here are two guys challenging each other to spend less time on social media, accomplish it by virtue of competition. Okay, cool. And then you say revert. What does that say? Not about SEALs. What does that say about the platforms? Because I mean, think about the rest of the world.
It says everything you need to know about the platform. The fact that you can, like you just said, you can recognize all of those things. You can both text each other back and forth in your limited phone usage for the day. Man, this is awesome. And 60 days later, you're back to the same behavior that led you to the November or December conversation. That's all you need to know about the platforms.
Okay, I have to drill into this. This is not where I thought we would go first, but it gets right to the heart of discipline and self-control versus influence and time, and time is everything. When you are on a social media platform and you're scrolling away, are you aware of the time that's drifting away from you?
Yes.
Low, if it was high.
Terrified.
You know, something had happened systematically over the years in the teams where your adrenaline was set too low, you need to crank it above a certain threshold. Sounds like you were right where any rational person would be, which was terrified.
Because at some point you grab your little tail wing and you make a nice little teepee with it and you get your toes to the edge and you check all your stuff and then you are just looking out into the abyss. And you have to make yourself rock forward past a point of no return that if you change your mind, whoopsies, that doesn't work anymore. And then you need to have maximal human performance for about the next 4 seconds of your life if you want your life to continue. So if you're not scared in that environment, I would recommend you stop that activity immediately because you're not paying attention. It was terrifying. And that's probably why I liked it so much. It was awesome. Don't get me wrong. Ripping down a mountain in Switzerland, 6 feet off the ground, almost playing tag with your shadow and then turning around and like carving through trees. Amazing.
So you're actually pretty low to the ground, just going very, very fast
if you want to
over
be.
steep ground.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to be. Not everybody chooses to fly that way. And you can have on the exact same jump. I can think of one very specifically. It's at the far end of the valley in Switzerland. It's a 4-hour hike up. And it's, I mean, you're getting water in your you know, canteen or Nalgene out of like these glacially just spouting out of the rocks, and there's sheep and stuff. And, you know, it's like a postcard. You walk for 4 hours. You can have a really aggressive jump on that and fly for 60 seconds, or you could flatten your suit out and just glide and fly for 2.5 minutes. Same jump, different choices. Not that, you know, necessarily flying farther out, you still need to pack your parachute correctly and all those things, but your likelihood of impacting a tree at 100 miles an hour with your face is a lot better than flying 6 feet off the ground around corners that hopefully you've done some test jumps on and gotten lower and lower and lower and lower instead of just flashpoint in that thing and hoping for the best as you come around the corner, which people do.
How fast are you moving when you're above the ground?
If you really bend those suits over, I'd say you could get them to about 120. Face first.
You're a human missile.
It's awesome.
I can, you know, we can, those of us like myself listening to this can only wonder, right?
You can feel it in the suit. So again, the ram air inlets, when you're a little bit flatter flying slow, it feels like you're on an air mattress is really what flying feels like. As you bend the suit over and you're just violently diving at the ground, you can feel the suit. It's almost like it's just your power meter is just all the way up. And so if you get in trouble, you can flatten that out, and that's your safety. You can disconnect from the terrain, which is how, unfortunately, some people die. They're not paying attention to that sensation, and they're slowly getting flatter and flatter and flatter and flatter. Then they encounter flat terrain, and they don't have enough performance in the suit to clear it, and they impact. But that, when you're pitched over like that and that thing is just, it feels like you are licking the largest 9-volt battery you've ever licked in your life.
Would your parents say that this is a window into the young Andy Stumpf, or is this a
It takes longer to do it wrong is the bottom line. And we all are tempted with these shortcuts. So
that's the mantra we have to remember.
My children, their bathroom, if there was going to be an Ebola outbreak in the US, it might start there. I don't know anything about Ebola, but I feel like it might start there. So as with most bathrooms, there's toilet paper rolls. And my kids, when they finish the toilet paper roll, instead of popping it off the holder, taking it and going and getting a new one, they go get a new one. And they sit it right there. So it's like empty toilet paper roll up against the wall. You would think that when this one is done, they would take them both. But instead, they do this. So there's two against the wall, and then the other roll goes here. Now, I can't use this one because this is open. But when this roll is done, you would think that they wouldn't create a pyramid, which historically, from my understanding of math, isn't great to balance things on. But they will make a pyramid and then put this up here. And inevitably, this roll goes forward, hits the ground behind the toilet, and then they start screaming from the bathroom, "I need toilet paper, Dad," to which I respond, "You got yourself there. You can figure it out on your own."
This is all of your kids?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're all your kids?
Yeah.
All right. I'm not really saying anything there.
And so the point in all of this is, if you don't want to be somebody screaming for a toilet paper roll, it actually takes less time to go and, when you're out of toilet paper, disconnect it, throw it away on the way, and bring another one in. It's the same thing as laundry. Do you laundry? I'm not perfect at this by any stretch, but do your laundry, fold your laundry, put it away. That always takes less time than do your laundry in a pile. Then you're in a pinch and you're looking for your t-shirt, whatever shirt you want to wear.
And I own a lot of black clothing.
Oh my God, I do too. It's all blues, blacks, and an occasional red. The red ones are easy to find in that particular cohort. But otherwise, you're in there and it's stuff's inside out, so you don't know if it's got the right logo. There's socks coming out of the sleeves. 5x the amount of time that would take you, as opposed to just wash your laundry, dry it, fold it, put it away. I have tried to express this message to my children to the limits of my vocabulary. I went into my daughter's bathroom before we came up here. There was 3 rolls of toilet paper. 2 of them were empty and wedged on the side, and the third one was vertical. And I just closed the door and walked away, pretend like it didn't happen. They don't listen to me. It always takes longer to do it wrong. And those are the little shortcuts that we all take. We tell ourselves, I'll do it later. Or I don't have time to do it right now. We all have the same amount of time. It's where you're allocating your time. Do it up front, and I assure you, like the McCraven speech about making your bed, the number of parents that probably thought that was life-changing was just amazing. Like, yes, somebody else is telling my kid to make the bed. It's not actually about that. It's about having the discipline to do the little things, and it is way better at the end of the night when you're tired to come back to a bed that is made and ready for you to hop into than having to, and not most people would do this, but make it first and then get into it. But it just gets worse and worse and worse. And in the end, it will take you longer to correct for that than the individual action of just doing it right the first time.
What's your advice with respect to this?
The internal struggles and self-talk and monologue, I couldn't read it without crying. And I don't think he realized how highly other people thought of him. The gap between the two is just unbelievable. He and not everybody is. He was isolated at the time. There was alcohol involved, to the best of my knowledge, which unfortunately, especially in the community that I come from, those two things are pretty often tied, not always, but often tied, alcohol in that decision as well. And the stats are pretty well back about, the alcohol being, you can speak to this, and, the central nervous system depressant. It's not like, yay, I'm feeling the best I've ever felt. It generally will spiral you in the other direction. But when I look at Dave, he was and is to this day what I would consider to be the standard for a team guy. And what I loved about him so much is that not only did he expect that standard from other people, but he held it himself. And actually more than that, I would say he held himself to a higher standard than he would hold other people to. If you met his standard, you were going to get 2 thumbs up. Probably not a pat on the back, but you were going to get 2 thumbs up and you were going to know you did a good job. If you did not meet his standard, which I tested many times, you were very specifically told where you're deficient in life and as a human being. And he had a tongue like a whip. He was awesome. And I think at the end, and this is me speaking for him a little bit, I think he arrived at a place where he couldn't live with the reality that he couldn't hold himself to the standard that he had expected from other people. And I think it destroyed him. But I don't know if he shared that with anybody. I don't think so. Some of the last people that he spoke with knew that he was struggling for sure. He had an alcohol addiction issue for sure. And for clarity, I mean, Dave would be pissed actually if I didn't mention that, because he would never tolerate anybody else beating around the bush. He legitimately had an issue with alcohol, as some people do from that community. They knew that he was struggling. He's the only guy I know who did multiple treatments of, I have zero experience in psychedelics, but from listening to people talk about ayahuasca and ibogaine, rides that don't seem to be a very good time, and oftentimes will instantaneously change the relationship they have with substances, whether it's opiates or alcohol. Not that you would never drink again, but their relationship with it just shifts. They're like, you know what? I don't even have the desire to do so. 72 hours later, 96 hours later, and it's not like he just tried once. He would go back. He would even facilitate treatment for other people. But it wasn't working for him, but he wasn't sharing that. And that isolation and loneliness and that difference between that standard and what he was able to do got him to that place where he put a gun in his mouth, alone, isolated at his family home in Florida. And when everybody showed up at the funeral, it's like,